I tell you,
Mr.
anybody
Nardi.
needs
Can't do
a
it.
new
Oh, come on,
barber,
Mr. Nardi.
Can't do it.
Sebastian
Hello,
in
hello.
Terrytown.
He's good.
You ready?
I apologize.
He's giving us a thumbs up.
All set?
You good?
Let's go with, Ms. Vespia, would you please lead us in the pledge? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, bless this assemblage. Grant us the wisdom to make our every decision fair-minded and in the best interest for all its residents. I kindly ask everyone to please remain standing and keep in your thoughts and prayers the Rapocchio family. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Supervisor Villanova. Okay. Hope, would you call the roll?
The meeting for July 21st, 2015 is now called to order. Councilpersons Collins? Present. Nardi?
Here.
Nioras?
Here.
Villanova?
Yes.
And Supervisor Carvin.
Here. Okay, can I get anybody have any comments, questions on the minutes from the June 16th meeting?
No.
If not, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Terrific. Okay, Mr. Nowotnik, you want to talk about Crawford Park tree removal and pruning? Oh, sorry, what, I jumped ahead. I'm a little dyslexic, I have a new pair of glasses. Sorry. Any comments from the public? Okay. So let's go to resolution number A, in rem proceedings for 2015.
We have the class of 15, which has been presented to me by Nick Mecca. And as our, of course, I don't have the resolution in my package, but we do need an authorizing resolution so that I can commence the action.
The detail of those 27 properties is on
Oh, thank you.
page 8 of the tax receivable.
The last page in our packet,
Yes.
correct?
I got it.
Correct.
So we've got, oh, you got a big class this year, it looks
Got a
like.
big class.
Wow. So we've got $10.3 million in assessed value with over 27 properties.
Correct.
That's correct.
All right. Now, generally, we manage to get through most of these and get them all settled, correct?
Yes, I'm pleased to report that the class of 14 has been paid in full. We took no properties, and all of the taxes and penalties were paid in full as of July 2nd of this year.
Oh, that's
So,
wonderful.
That's great.
Okay, terrific.
It
And look,
was, 2014 was a good class.
I'm still waiting for your book. I'm hoping that it'll be
Well, it's-
published. But again, people, we don't want to take your homes. We're going to do everything we can to keep you in your home, but you need to work with us and keep us informed. Okay, great. So we need a resolution to
Yes.
accept these?
Well, no, to authorize me to commence the action.
Okay.
As per every other year, it's a $400 per parcel legal fee to the town attorney payable by the taxpayer, plus we assess the cost of the title searches and the publication costs and the filing fees. Again, all are assessed against the delinquent taxpayer.
Perfect. Okay, can I get a motion to approve Resolution A? Or any
moved.
questions? No, we do this every year. Any questions?
No, you know what, John, you're right, we should say that this is not, it's not a quick resolution, there's nothing that's done behind the scenes, and quite simply, this is something that we do every year, and that's the reason why we can make this decision so quick to instruct the town attorney.
And we want to thank Mr. Noda for his hard work. He's been very, very diligent and effective at being fair-minded with the public and also both in terms of protecting the taxpayers of the town and also protecting those people that are having difficulty paying. So with that, can I get a motion to approve Resolution A?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Hope, would you call the roll, please?
Surley. Collins? Yes. Nardi?
Yes.
Nioras?
Yes.
Villanova?
Yes.
Supervisor Carvin.
Yes. Okay, Crawford Park tree removal and pruning. Mr. Nowotnik?
Okay. Okay, in your packet, you should have
the backup information. We put this thing out to bid a while ago. I'm trying to remember exactly what the date was. Hang on. I don't have the date.
It's
I'm
been,
terribly
July
sorry.
1st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we received 4 very legitimate bids. Bids ranged from $13,561.97 all the way up to $28,149. We have since tried to vet the low bidder. Almstead Tree and Shrub Care is the company. They do have quite an extensive operation. I sent you guys a memo, or I included a memo in there. We're recommending Almstead. Just to give you some background, they have done minor, what I would call lawn maintenance work for the town. They do some remedial lawn work for us at Rytown Park. They have not done tree work for us, but for example, they do have a $300,000 annual contract with the Central Park Conservancy. They do a lot of their tree work. They're not exclusive, but they've been doing work for them for over 12 years. Their Central Park Conservancy is extremely happy with them. They are
How'd
consistent.
they come in so much lower than everybody else?
Well, we're going to get there in a second.
Okay.
Okay. In addition, we contacted the Battery Park Commission. They also do tree work down in Battery Park. They have now won, this is their 3rd consecutive bid victory down in Battery Park. Both of the guys that I spoke with, one in each, very reliable, very straightforward. They always seem to have equipment, and they follow instructions pretty well. So we were concerned why they were so much lower. This was a prevailing wage request. We spoke to them specifically, and both the Central Park Conservancy as well as Battery Park City both require a prevailing wage as well. And they said that these guys have the system down pat. They have never been audited. They have always submitted the required documentation. They've submitted it on time. I feel very comfortable in recommending that we go ahead with this, because that was what our thinking was.
Okay, so we basically, they've come in with good references and a
Top
far
no-
lower price than anybody else.
Top-notch references and a
So
hugely good
let's open up for
price.
questions. Great.
Well, I will say this, I've been down the Battery more than a handful of times over the past couple of years, and the renovations and everything, all the development that they've done down there is huge. The restaurants, all of that, you've seen it, Joe.
Yeah, fantastic.
And so there's definitely some good work there. And you're right, Bishop. I was one of the first people that brought that to light, that this was incredibly low compared to the other ones. It reminded me of the contract that we have with GPS. Our question was back then, why is this person so much lower than the other companies? And it was, for that sense, it was because of the equipment that the person had,
Right.
this massive grass cutting machine. So if, this has been vetted, and I'm pretty confident that New York City is not going to, put themselves on the line for anybody incorrectly, so.
And these guys have one of the largest, what they call boom trucks. This is the thing that gets the guy up there to prune the trees and so forth. Theirs is 70 feet tall capacity, which is pretty large. I mean, some of the other guys only go up to about 50, 55 feet.
Good. Other
Understood.
questions?
Are we looking to move ahead with this, or is this just a discussion?
I think the idea was to go ahead with it.
We're recommending that you approve the resolution. There should be a resolution in your packet. If you want to see the actual bid detail, I gave you a spreadsheet that
Yeah, that's
outlined.
what we're looking at. We
Yeah.
have the spreadsheet.
All right, and what I did was, the highlighted versions are the low bids for that particular tree.
Yep.
And you can see that Almstead was pretty much the low bidder on almost
Well,
all of the trees.
I don't see a resolution in our package, but I'm wondering if we could go ahead and
I
approve.
prepared one if you'd like
Yeah,
me to
absolutely,
read the
yeah.
last four.
Sure, sure, go ahead.
Whereas- Okay, should I read the whole resolution?
Sure, please.
Okay.
Yep.
Whereas the town of Rye is the owner of Crawford Park located in Rye Brook, New York, and therefore is responsible for upkeep and beautification of said park. Whereas it had been determined there was the need of tree pruning and tree removal services in said park. Whereas it had been determined that 25 trees need pruning and 20 removal. And whereas the town of Rye had requested proposals for said tree pruning and tree removal services. Whereas 4 companies had responded with proposals, and whereas the lowest bid presented was from Almstead Tree and Shrub Care Company, 58 Beechwood Avenue, New Rochelle. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Rye Supervisor Joseph Carvin being here, he hereby is authorized to enter in agreement with said Almstead Tree and Shrub Care Company. Be it further resolved that said Almstead Tree and Shrub Care Company be paid the sum of $13,561.95.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, call the roll, please, Hope.
Collins? Yes. Nardi?
Yes.
Nioras?
Yes.
Villanova?
Yes.
Carvin?
Yes. Okay, and similarly, do we design and architectural services, Mr. Nowotny?
Okay, yeah, before we leave this, I just want to alert the council that we are going to delay the actual work until after the summer camps are finished. There's just, all of these trees are right along the roadway
Yeah,
and
that
and
makes
so
sense.
forth, so we're going to push it back.
Are there any that are in danger of falling, or?
Not really.
Branches?
I mean, there will probably be a branch or two that may come down. Remember, there's a lot of pruning.
Right.
But I have to wait. I have band camp, Portchester High School band camp finishes up at the end of August. So we're looking to start this job right around Labor Day.
Okay.
And the contractor assures us that it'll be about, weather permitting, about 5 days of work is what they're planning on.
And quick question. All the debris will be removed by the
Yes.
vendor?
Yes.
Perfect.
Including stump grinding.
Perfect.
Beautiful. Okay,
Oh,
sorry, please.
do we have replacement trees?
At the moment, we don't, but if you'll recall, over the last 3 years, I think we've planted about 75 trees in partnership with the Friends of Crawford Park. And if you'll remember,
one.
Susie Oppenheimer gave us $5,000 for trees and so forth. So we've already planted quite a few trees there. Could we do more? That'll be something to look at down the line.
Perfect. Okay, discussion.
Architectural.
Design and architectural services.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's
that's
all.
the
Crawford
large
Park.
packet that you
Yep.
have in front of you.
Yep.
All right, we've given you copies of each firm's proposal. There were 5 proposals received. If you look at the cover sheet, that little spreadsheet you have on the front, that outlines the cost proposal for each. And you'll notice that more or less, there are 3 firms that are literally within pennies of each other. They're all in the $22,000 range. I'm not quite, I mean, they're all fine firms. I've toured with a couple of them in terms of toured the actual work. I was going to recommend here that perhaps the council may want to consider setting up a special meeting to interview these bidders.
Bishop, I'd like to be part of that interview.
What do you want to take the lead on it?
Yeah, I'll take the lead on it.
Perfect, great. Anybody
think-
want to, sorry.
Yeah, I think we did that last time. It worked out pretty well.
Yeah, there were 2, right, we have 2 local bidders, and we have one is from Hastings.
I'd say we bring all 3 in and have this have the discussion.
Okay.
Perfect.
Include
So
me
we'd
in,
like to-
yeah,
okay,
I'll
perfect,
go in
great.
too.
Okay.
Do you
good.
want to
That-
consider the architectural visions, which is borderline 25,000?
You know what, I think just for, to bring in, if we're gonna do 4, we do all 5.
Yeah, I think you do the 3.
Yeah, I was thinking the 3 too.
Yeah, I think you
Let-
do the 3.
let's
Because
do
at the end of
those-
the day,
Yeah,
you
Okay.
know,
Let's do
you-
those
you
three.
The process is designed to bring out low bidders and that kind of thing. I think that unless, I would have gone to the 3.
I
Oh,
think,
the 3 are, there's plenty of architectural talent there.
That's what I'm saying, so let's
Yeah.
just do the 3.
I think
Okay.
the supervisor's correct, I
Yep.
agree.
Okay.
Perfect,
All right.
great.
All right, is there anybody else that's going to participate, or is it just
I
Bill?
think-
I'm certainly, if the schedule allows for it, I'll be more than
Okay,
happy
well-
to
We'll
participate.
pick a date and hope you will, it'll be a public meeting.
Well, if 3 people are gonna, then we need to notice the meeting, right?
and
Yes.
We'll notice the meeting.
Okay.
Right,
Perfect.
Great.
okay.
Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Thanks for your hard work on this, Mr. Wynick. And thank you, Deputy Supervisor Villanova, that's great. And you're bringing back the old team here. You got Mr. Nardi, Supervisor Villanova, fantastic. And you look at Councilwoman Collins will be the trifecta, terrific, thank you. And I think this is all a result of Councilman Nioras, you kicked off this work with Mr. Nardi, if I'm not mistaken, so thank you.
That's correct.
Sterling Bank is National Depository. Mr. Burns?
This is just some housekeeping. Sterling National Bank merged or acquired Hudson Valley Bank.
Yep.
We had a small bond account with Hudson Valley Bank. So now the bank is Sterling National Bank. So to be in compliance with town laws, we are listing them as a depository and also authorizing to have a custodial agreement. The account's roughly about $10,000. It was a bond account where the money was drawn from the account for each year when the bond payments were due. The last bond payment was in December of 2014, so that was the bond for the property at the lower part of Crawford Park that was purchased by the town back from the religious organization that owned the property. The town bonded that in 2004. It was a 10-year bond, and the final payment was in December of 14.
So we could take up both these together, I think. D&E, it's basically housekeeping for the bank
Yeah, it's no
merged.
longer Hudson Valley Bank, it's Sterling National Bank, so there
Right,
is an
so-
account of record.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Burns?
No.
Can I get a motion to approve resolutions D&E, which are effectively housekeeping now that this merger has occurred?
So moved.
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Okay, IMA Town of Rye, Village of Mamaroneck. Okay.
Town of America.
Who's doing, where's, Town of Mamaroneck, apologies, Town of Mamaroneck. Town Assessor Canower, would you explain what's going on here?
Yes, basically.
Oh, good, you're with me, Hope, all right.
If,
Okay, good.
if there are people that could be potentially a conflict of interest who are filing a grievance or a SCAR, then we have agreed with the town of Mamaroneck that they would review our cases and we would review their cases. So their chairperson of the BAR is filing a grievance, so we will review that. And they will be reviewing 4 of ours, Joseph Carvin, Hope, Vespia, Maria Rapocchio, and Mitchell Markowitz, just so there's no impropriety or favoritism or, just to keep on board with ethics and the right thing to do.
Perfect. Any questions from the board? I should abstain, definitely. Yeah, I should definitely abstain on this.
Mayor, the resolution should also authorize the supervisor to sign there are 4 agreements that you should have in your packet for each property owner.
Should maybe have Deputy
I'd say,
Supervisor Miller? Yeah, let's have Deputy
To
Supervisor
make it easier,
Villanova.
you can authorize the deputy supervisor to execute the agreements on behalf of the town.
That would be helpful. And again, I think that, well, we all spend a lot of time in public service. It doesn't mean that, we give away our rights as citizens, and so, in
Absolutely.
any case. But I definitely want to abstain on these, on both of these issues. So
And
I'll
is
let you lead
Steve
the conversation,
Newman's
if you will.
in there?
Yeah, by the way, you're also approving an agreement to handle that we're going to pick up a grievance from Eve Newman, who is the chairperson of the BAR for the town of Mamaroneck. So
So we
it's a
need-
reciprocal agreement that we will do that as well, and there is an agreement in here. so.
Okay, good.
Ms. Canal,
Right, so I'm good.
I just want to make sure I understand this. So this is just for these specific properties?
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there something that we should put in force in IMA for any future properties that come up?
Well, it's,
As a general IMA?
actually, the town, we had this conversation with the town. The bill maker, the town attorney, said that their policy is they do it one at a time, and they want a separate agreement for each. I guess so that either of us can reserve the right not to do it if for some reason we choose not to. So they wouldn't agree to a blanket IMA other than doing it this way, which is each property, one at a time. You don't get too many, as you know. In
Right,
fact, this is the first time, I think.
It's the
we-
first time we've done this.
Yeah, and in our 7 years, it's the first time I can remember, doing it. So I don't anticipate we'd have a lot of them. Obviously, there aren't that many town employees to deal with. So now, they might be more on their end because they're a bigger town, a larger town government.
All right.
But they used to go to the village of Mamaroneck. It used to be between the town and the village, because the village, as you know, had an assessment unit. Now they don't, so now they're coming to us.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the board?
No?
No.
That being said, the Chair will entertain a motion to approve Resolution F, so the Deputy Supervisor can execute the agreements, the IMAs with the Town of Mamaroneck.
So moved.
Some, second?
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, very good.
Thank you, Deputy Supervisor Villanova. Okay, now we've got a discussion item, Administrative Services, request for qualifications. I'm going to turn it over to Councilwoman Collins to talk a little bit about what's happened, and then I'll follow up.
Sure. So we had put out the RFQ for the Administrative Services Agreement, and we haven't received a formal submission in response to the RFQ, but we have received some firms who are interested in learning more. So Supervisor Carvin and I have taken the time to meet with 2 firms and do a little bit more exploratory conversation to better understand the scope of the work and define the roles involved and look at the numbers. They didn't feel like they had enough information in the packet that we put forward to accurately generate a proposal for our review. So that's where we are right now, and those conversations are ongoing. One of the organizations is eager to come in and do a deeper dive, very committed to making sure that they have a real handle on the scope, which I really appreciated their commitment to doing discovery, free of charge, working with us. They're a very hands-on, collaborative, local organization, and it really was insightful to us, I think, as well as them, to hear the questions that were being asked and have us take a better look at the line items we were discussing as well. So, I'm eager to see what they say in their discovery and go take the conversation on after we learn a little bit more about what it is we're even asking for.
Yeah, exactly, and I think since the other thing I just added is since we last met, there was some conversation as to whether or not full-time employees would be incorporated, and certainly my view, and I know certainly know, Councilman Nardi, you expressed a concern that we're not going to incorporate. My suggestion would be we not incorporate any full-time employees as part of the scope of work. So it'd still be outsourcing, but basically you'd have a single outsourcing contract for effectively the part-time people working at the town. And again, the desire is to generate savings, but it wouldn't incorporate any full-time employees at this point. In fact, Town Clerk Vespia and I met with some of the personnel involved, and we confirmed that certainly that it would be my strong recommendation would not incorporate any full-time employees. I think the other thing is one of the firms that's bidding, 75% of their work is indeed outsourcing. And so, what I'd like to do is to carry the process forward, see where we get to with these firms and interests, and then, come back to the rest of the board and talk to you. In fact, the other thing is we had set up these meetings, and the people that were available to meet with them were myself and Councilwoman Collins. Again, another thing I'd be happy to do, in fact, encourage us to do, is if the other members of the board had a chance to sit down with these groups, it would be, we could set up a meeting. Again, we could notice the meeting if all 3 wanted to attend at the same time. to take the process forward and see where we get to. And at this point, there's no clear expectation where we're going to get to. I want to see what ultimately the firms, and I'm really encouraged, as is Councilwoman Collins, that this group's prepared to come and take a look at our operations, take a look at what we have, and see how they might be
Make
able
sure
to
it
help.
makes sense, you know,
Yeah,
they're not
and it's going to
willing
make sense
just
for
come
them
in.
and for us.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's just important to note, I don't think any of the services we met with were talking about coming in and even taking over part-time jobs necessarily. It's more about improving efficiencies, so maybe there's systems that they can suggest that we use to replace systems we have now, and perhaps it uses the exact same staff. I don't know, I don't want to speak to that, but I think there's this perception of what it means to come in and outsource and to just take over, and it's not. It's about improving services and efficiencies, and someone leading that charge.
I'd rather see if you're gonna, systems be changed and, you know, outsourcing, taking people
Yeah.
from in-house and having other people in. Because I don't know where the real exact savings you're gonna have.
Well, I think that's why we're in this still very,
Yeah, I
very
yeah.
preliminary stage of learning and determining that, so I wouldn't even want to speak to that, but I did just want to get that, you know, out on the table, that we really don't know what that translates to, if
I'd
it
be
translates to anything.
Next meeting, I'd like to, I'll go to.
Sure.
I do, the ones that you had, I just couldn't make.
No, I understand.
You
And
know.
what we'll maybe try to do is, this firm's coming in on Thursday, and they may come in and say, you know what, there's not much we can do, or they may come back and say, we have some terrific ideas. So what I'd like to propose is that if you know, that we try and set up a meeting, not for this week, but next week sometime.
Next week, yeah,
That,
fine.
that the rest of the board can meet
If they're
with
wi-
them,
yeah,
and you
if
guys,
they-
and you draw your own, you know, your own conclusions, and you meet with them.
That's July 30th, right?
That week, yep. And what we'll do is we'll circulate, Mr. Dwanick.
I'm not gonna be around on
Well,
July.
I also
Whoa,
think-
wait, stop the town, hold on, hold on.
Exactly.
Whoa, what
stop
are
the
we,
town.
we'll talk,
I-
we'll coordinate with Mr. Thomas
I don't
in your
think
absence.
it's that value. Yeah,
Sure.
these are-
And so we'll, you know, I think,
Let's
you've
wait
met with
until-
both.
Yeah, you don't,
met-
I don't think you need me. I've met both firms
Right,
already.
you'll meet with them
Yeah.
again this Thursday, correct?
Yes.
And that's-
Okay, so
that's
then,
the right
but
owner,
the
70
important thing
Grace
is for the
Street,
rest of the board
LLC.
to-
Okay,
What,
thank
what's
you.
the time on Thursday?
Okay,
They're not,
thank
they're
you.
they're
not-
coming in to do like an actual
They're,
discovery.
yeah,
Yeah,
Thursday's
Thursday.
more show and tell.
thing.
More show and tell.
Yeah, they're-
Not necessarily a meet and greet. They're actually
Okay.
coming in to do work and see what it is that, you know, they're getting the
And
detail unload.
My sense is they're just as committed to making sure that we want them, you know, there's a consensus on the board for what they're gonna do. Anything else, I think the first thing is to see what can they propose, are there the systems, are there the efficiencies? And if they come away from that meeting and think that there are, I think then, you know, then that's the time.
Then we
have
can go to the
meeting.
next step. It really seems like
Yeah.
we're in a little bit of a baby step learning process right
think
now
that's right.
to outline exactly what these line items are that we're looking to achieve.
So we'll, Mr. Nwando, before you leave, if you could coordinate a meeting with these groups
Yep.
and the rest of the board, that'd be terrific, and
You said the 30th?
the week of the 30th.
The week
Oh,
of the
so it's the
30th.
week of the,
Well-
no.
I'm sorry, the week of the.
Week of the 27th.
Week of the 27th, sorry. Next,
Okay.
anytime, I don't know if you guys, if you want to,
Well, I think my recommendation would be, let's hold off on scheduling that until after Thursday. And
Perfect.
see how long it's gonna take this organization to report back to us on their findings.
Yes.
And that's when we should have the meeting, so they can present to us.
You know, the-
And maximize their time.
good.
The one thing I want to be sure of is that there's no confidential information that this company comes in contact with. How can we be assured that doesn't take place?
Yeah.
I can't, I mean, we're talking about what I would call a transactional type of review. I don't think there's any confidential information. It's not like we're going to share personnel records with anybody or those
Right.
kinds of things.
I asked the
I
same
think
thing.
they want to know, how do you do this, and how do you do that,
Yeah.
and how do you do such and such?
Okay.
And all our financial information is public, right?
Right,
It's the
and
budget
they already have a copy of the
and
budget, and
the
they have a
annual
copy of
reports,
the audit
and-
report.
And Councilman Collins had exactly the same question
Right, okay, good.
and concern. Yeah. No, it's legit, it's a very fair line of concern. Okay, so just that's more, getting back to the board.
An update.
And anything else to add, Councilman Collins?
No, I think
Okay.
that's it.
Good. Crawford Park Baseball Field, Mr. Nowotnik?
No, I
Oh,
think that's,
Yep, yep, very good. Okay, so here's where we were. Bishop Nowotnik grabbed some information from some local vendors on what we could do with the field over at Crawford Park. And that was really just a snapshot, and it was It was just an idea from a couple vendors, what we can do and what the cost could be. The benefit of having a nice ball field is the maintenance, and it's something that Portchester has down pat over at Lions Park. Lions Field 1 and 2 are absolutely pristine, but it comes with a lot of volunteer hours. So I kind of had an idea where the town of Rye can partner with the Portchester Youth Baseball League and see what we can do to bring their activity to Crawford Park. Would benefit us. So right now, it wouldn't work to have them do the work because we really don't have a mechanism in place there. They have equipment over at the park. We don't have any equipment that they can use. So it's something that could happen in the future, but it can't happen now. So I think that where Bishop and I are going to lead this to is we're going to actually put out a formal RFP that would incorporate the field, and that's going to be to rehab the field, take away the old clay, put in the new clay as needed. We're going to identify how many yards of clay is going to be used, size of the field, all the parameters, including seating, benches, the extended back, what's it called, Bishop?
Backstop?
Backstop, the extended backstop, so it comes into compliance, so balls aren't flying into the street or outside of the field area. And then also 2 short-sided fences for players that would be sitting on their dugout area. So we're going to look to get some information together. We're going to want permission from the board to support that effort. This is not saying that we're going to spend the money, even though I think it's
Actually,
something.
the rehabilitation of that field was in the capital budget in the plan for this year. So we're
Right.
planning to do that as soon as we
Right.
can get somebody to come and bid on that, and we know what it is we want to do. Definitely to clean it up, take out the weeds and redo the field, the sand and whatever in the bases.
Yeah.
Would be definite.
Well,
for
I'll
this
say
year.
this, that if that is all we're gonna do, then I'll be very honest with you, I'm not gonna support that. The problem that we're in right now with that field is that we went from having a field that was, I would say, decent and operational, for lack of a better term, playable, and it was maintained by Rybrook because Rybrook's league used it, but as soon as Rybrook's league didn't need it anymore, they stopped maintaining it. So spending the money is great, but it's having the plan afterwards to maintain the field. So we got to make sure that we can.
Oh, I agree 100%,
Yeah.
and Tom and I discussed this,
Yeah.
and we thought that once we got it done, what we'd propose is that there'd be some sort of fee for use.
Also,
A use fee for it.
Rybrook Rec was also interested in using the field again. Now, I don't know how interested they'd be in help paying for it, and like
No,
if you
I
say.
don't think we can expect anybody to pay for it. I
No.
think the onus is on us to repair it
Okay.
into usable condition, and then the maintenance thereof, I think if we can collect some sort of use fee for maintaining it going forward, I think that would be a viable option.
But I know Rybrook, when I was talking with them, we were going over prices and everything. They were very interested in using the field. And I know during the day they have the camp there. Now, I don't know if the camp would be able to use it or not for like T-ball or something as one of their activities.
So we have the opportunity, and so if it's okay with the board's permission, we'd like to go forward to get some pricing. Specifically, I would say this is going to be probably a step or two above just a regular field, working with what we have there. Because if we're going to invest in something that's the same, it's a bad investment.
No, you got to make
right?
it safe for the kids.
And the other thing that we would probably need to look at as well is that historically, the soccer field that's used on the left field area cuts into the infield. We're going to have to prohibit that.
Yeah.
Because if we're going to invest into the infield and it's going to be edged, we need to make sure that soccer field is pushed out.
We also discussed that, and the idea was to actually move that left more out into left field, if you will, in order to accommodate any balls going out into left field. And I think there's sufficient room to move that soccer field, probably I wouldn't know.
It depends, soccer fields can be designed in a number of sizes. We would probably have to reduce the size, the playing size, in order to do that.
Needless to say, FIFA wouldn't be holding an event here.
No, no, definitely not. But Portchester did have their youth soccer
That's the next
program
resolution.
actually play their competitive games there on
Yeah.
Sundays. And they had a series of maybe 3 or 4 games on Sundays. I don't know that they're going to continue that. They were looking at Portchester supplying additional field space, particularly, I think it was at Edgewood Park.
I was looking where the goals are, and it looks like it's just beyond the third base line.
Well-
And it looked like there was plenty of room to shift that out further.
Yeah, I think it sounds to me we have a consensus clearly.
Yeah.
To move forward with an RFP. The one thing I'd ask is that can we have it, in other words, I think there's a grand design. I mean, clearly we need to take the
Maybe,
ballpark.
like, some options.
But yeah, some options. 'Cause in other words, if we're gonna put stands in, that's an additional cost. I'd like to see that
Yeah,
that
I
when you
agree.
put the RFP together, that you give various options.
Years ago, there used to be stands there.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. So in
Yeah.
other words, if
I
you
mean, that
could-
makes it more usable.
and then I don't know, and then just,
There's
again,
still- there's still a stand, at least one.
can we have somebody from the
There's
board
one.
take the lead on their project? I don't know. I love the idea of the Portchester Youth League.
Well, that's where I think we really need to end up.
Because I think you're absolutely right. You need to have.
We need to end
Who's
up
gonna
with
use it?
that.
Because the part of the reason, I understand from Bishop, it felt we basically allowed it to fall in disrepair in some sense is because no one was using it for baseball, correct?
Right.
The people that were using it. So
Well,
regardless of what happened, we're all agreed we want to bring it back. But I think Deputy Supervisor Villanova is absolutely correct that we want to make sure that
There's a
gonna
plan
be
for it.
a plan for it,
Sure.
and we want to, make sure we don't lose a soccer field and building we'll put a stadium there or whatever. So I just wanted somebody to sort of shepherd. Is there somebody who wants to take the lead on this project that could sort of, work with Mr. Nowotny and give him direction as he puts out that RFP?
Well, Billy said he was going
Billy, do you
to
wanna
work on
take
that.
it?
I'd be more than happy to do that.
Fantastic, great, wonderful. Okay, thank you.
Okay, and then the next discussion is the Westchester County Stormwater Reconnaissance Program. So as we all know, there was a legacy field project that came from the county, was brought to us many years ago by Marty Rogowski, and quite simply, when he vacated office, the effort vacated with him. To bring everybody up to speed, we continued this effort, and it's difficult. Paul will tell you, it takes 2 months to get a meeting together over at Westchester County, to get everybody together. But I will say this, the legacy program is no more with Westchester County, but that doesn't mean that we're not making any progress. So what Westchester County does have now is the Stormwater Reconnaissance Program, and they're successful throughout Westchester County identifying areas that are prone to flooding. And one of those areas is the Portchester Middle School fields that run through there. They run from Rye Brook right through the field behind Portchester Middle School, right into Harrison, right down into Rye. So where we are now, and I'll let Paul speak to this as well. We had our last meeting this past week, and we had a commitment from the Westchester County Planning Board, where they are going to do preliminary plans and identify a scope of work with estimated pricing for the project. And this, I felt, was in a great puts us in a great position where we're not laying out additional monies unless we go forward with some kind of a plan. The Westchester County is willing to participate 50% of the project, and we were able to review the original plans that were part of the legacy field, and when we boiled it down and really focused on the mitigation of the flooding of the stormwater, it really was not that expensive. And they had in there stadium stands for 75,000 people with a press box, and so it was quite a, believe me, this plan from back then, this legacy field, it would have, the legacy is that how long would it take to pay for it? But I think the most important thing now is that we're poised for progress still, and it looks like we'd be able to go forward. Paul?
I think you said it all. I mean, at this point, the Astorino administration, they're not doing the legacy program anymore. So to the extent that it's a stormwater mitigation project, they're very supportive. There's money there. I think they would split the cost with us. So right now, we have to figure out what it's going to cost, and they're going to give us sort of a rough estimate by mid-August. I think that was the plan
And
to
what's
come
our
back.
expectation of what it would cost?
Well, we don't know. I mean, you had, I
Well,
think
the last one was what, $6 million?
6 million, which
Well,
was,
Right.
last one was
that wasn't
six.
the stormwater, that was just the.
No, there was
That- yeah,
stormwater.
right, so
No,
that
there
was-
there was stormwater at the last one.
Yes, included in that.
Right,
But,
right.
Yeah.
And the fields.
yes.
In the field. So as I was boiling it down, literally, it was maybe $1 million or $1.2 million.
You think
or
it's,
$1.5 million.
the total project can come down that low?
That's what it was then.
Okay.
So this could work very well, and once we get this plan from the county, I'm going to want to make sure we have a meeting with Rybrook, because if Rybrook may want to participate in the plan, because we could definitely show how this project would benefit downstream, but we could also show how it could benefit upstream as well. We have Avon condominiums there. They're low-lying, problematic with flooding, and this could be something that the area, both the town of Rye and the village of Rybrook, can partner with the school district and also with the county.
That's very true. If I recall, when they were looking at the legacy grant program, Rybrook was heavily involved in terms of flood mitigation
Yeah.
in that area. So I think they would like to be involved in this going forward. Also, the fact that the property lies in Rybrook would be a
Exactly.
big interest of theirs.
Yeah.
What about well, first of all, fantastic, great work reviving that project. I think it makes a lot of sense. In terms of the Portchester Middle School, do they have any funds to put forward towards this?
Portchester Middle School will start to identify what contribution they would bring forward for us as well. The bottom line is that they can't go forward with anything without first mitigating the water. So even if this is something that goes through in a succession of phases, mitigating the waters has to be phase one. And that would give the Portchester School District and the children really, who would be using the fields, the opportunity to use them. I mean, right now, if you go to the fields in the back, they're rocky, they're muddy, they're uneven. They're really not usable, by any stretch of the imagination. We met with Joe Durney from the schools. He spoke. It has to come down to competition, and we're talking about competition, not high-level competition, but just competition fields where the kids can play on them without fear of injury.
Sure.
So I think it's a great opportunity. So,
Terrific opportunity. Thanks very much. Any other questions for Deputy Supervisor Villanova? No, terrific work. I think that makes a lot of sense. Good. Town Assessor Canower.
Good evening, everybody. Just a couple of quick stats. We are currently in the grievance process. The BAR is reviewing the grievances that have been filed. There have been 769 of them, and they've reviewed about a third of those.
How much does that compare with last year?
Last year was about 600.
Okay,
So it's up a little bit, yeah. They will make their determination, and the determination letters will go out on September 15th. The good news is that the commercial filings are down. We're at 161 compared to about 200, and of those, we only have 4 properties that we don't have INEs on yet. So right from the get-go, we started notifying people when they filed the grievance. We had them sign off saying you need to provide the INEs within 7 days of filing a grievance. Most of them complied right away. A few had minor extensions, but we're in great shape this year.
Did we have 100% compliance last year?
All except one property.
And did they pay? Have they paid?
Well, we're going to put it on the tax bill.
We've put it on the
Yeah.
put it on
So
the
have they
tax
paid?
bill.
Well, I don't, if they pay their taxes, but I don't know if they
Well,
paid their
but
taxes
they
yet.
pay the tax throughout the year, right? So
Yeah.
It was
I want that. I'd love to have that money in. I want them to know.
Oh, they know.
I know.
They know. Huh?
They do know.
Oh, yeah.
So when are they going to? When do you expect that it'll be paid? Could you just look that up and just get back to me on that?
Yeah, whenever they pay, whenever,
Well, they pay tax bills all year round, right?
Right, so whenever their next cycle of tax bills, they
Well,
would pay
But I mean,
It
I'm
was
just,
levied on the town tax bill.
on the town
in
tax bill, so
April.
that would be
when's the
April.
tax bill?
April.
No, I don't want to wait till April.
No, this past April.
Yeah.
They haven't
So-
paid it yet.
Okay, so it was due in April.
Right,
Okay, so, all right, good. So it was due in April, and so now okay, now they're going
they're
to
getting
be,
penalties.
a few more years, they're going to be in your
They could
in
be
rem
in-
if
they
they
could be
don't.
on an in-rem list someday. But
Okay, great.
they haven't reached out to me, although I thought they would. They have spoken to the assessor.
And the
She
receiver.
and I are in communication. We've agreed on a strategy, which is pay it.
Yeah,
Well, let me put it this way. It's not like we didn't give them multiple warnings.
yeah.
And is it the same company this year? It's the same?
Well, one of the outstanding
Yeah,
ones right now, it
it's-
happens to be the same
Yes,
representative.
the same representative that dropped the ball on this guy is now dropped it on another guy, so.
So,
We hope they've learned their lesson.
Great. Okay, so we have 4 more to chase down this year.
one more to
and-
chase down, so that's really,
The assessment office has really done a great job. They're really on them.
thank you,
They are on them.
thanks.
Wonderful.
And the only other thing is that we are currently participating in the town's internship program, the summer internship, the high school candidates, and we have somebody working for us, and he's turned out great. Second week into the program, and he's working out really well.
Wonderful.
So that's
Nothing
good.
else to report?
That's really it, unless you have any questions.
Yeah,
Oh,
I have a
one more
question. I do have a question.
Okay.
Did the town notices go out on time this year?
Yes, they did.
Okay.
They went out in accordance with New York State real property tax law. They have
Which is
to-
what?
They have to go out within 10 days of grievance day, so they went out on time. Once they go out, we are not responsible for what happens with the mail, but for an example, in attending grievance night, a gentleman said on Tuesday evening, he said, I didn't get my notice till this past Friday, just a few days prior. And I said, well, how can that be? I said, were you on vacation? And he said, no, I have a P.O. box. I only check it a couple times a week. So there's different circumstances for people. They may be on vacation. It's a very tight window. It's the same window every year.
Well, what, is it the town window or New York State window?
It's a New York State
So
window.
New York State says you have to have them out, what, 10 days ahead of the?
Right,
of
and
the
it
grievance
from
day?
tentative roll to grievance day, it's always the third Tuesday. If it
So
were up
June 1 till,
June 1 until the third Tuesday in
Very-
June, that's the window. I mean, we always encourage residents to check the assessment roll right from the start. We warn them if
did
you
you do any
don't.
did you go to any villages and present it all? Am I right in remembering you went to Rye Brook and talked about
I did speak
at
to.
this time of year?
Yeah, that, at very short notice, I went there and spoke with them.
Okay.
Right. But, if it were up to me, I'd make it a bigger window, but it's not up to me, unfortunately, and.
I think you mentioned something about Mamaroneck you wanted to mention.
Well, I mean, basically, they had to refile about 100 tax bills because they hadn't taken into consideration the commercial value of the condominium because they're non-homestead.
So they went from, so when they,
So-
just explain to people at home,
It's,
when they did the reval, is that what happened? When
When
Town
they-
of Mamaroneck
when
did
it-
the reval, they went from.
no, when
okay.
the village accepted our assessment roll, they had to accept it as is. And on our homestead condominiums in the village of Mamaroneck, the village doesn't use homestead values. So there's an adjustment that has to be made outside the roll to bring the values to a commercial-based value. And I had notified them of that in March, and we were not privy as to how they were going to merge the rolls or use the rolls, and there was an oversight on their part,
Okay.
but it basically came down to them, turning to me and saying, well, it was the assessor not giving me appropriate information. However, I could only give them what was on the roll. I couldn't change the roll.
Right.
So it was a calculation that had to be done outside the roll,
Right.
and I had let them know back
As
in
per our
March.
agreement with them, when we first said we'd help them with the whole dissolution of their assessment department. If I
And there
understand
were certain
correctly-
steps that had to
Right.
be taken, and that was one of them, and it was an oversight.
Okay,
It was their mistake, not ours.
yes, that's exactly, I just wanted to clarify.
Do we have the assurances that this won't happen next year?
That's a Village of Mamaroneck.
Well, what I'm saying is that, I agree, it's the Village of Mamaroneck.
Well, hopefully they
I
learned their
think the answer
lesson.
would be yes, because they think they learned a lesson, because they had to redo
We're
their
aware of it
village
now.
tax bills, right? It was
Yeah.
their- so,
Right,
yeah,
but they may have to do the calculation outside of the roll still, because nothing has really been put in place in terms of, saying what exemptions they're adopting or how it's all.
Remember, they have their own
worked.
separate
They're
tax
just
bills.
adopting
I
what we
understand
have.
that, but here's the thing. For us to say that there's nothing that we can do between now and next year, and that next year's gonna come and they have to do it outside the tax roll again, what I want to do, because it's what I want to know that there has to be a meeting between the town of Rye and the Village of Mamaroneck to make the adjustment now, work on it for the next 6 months if you have to, work on it for the next 10 months if you have to, so we don't have the same situation happen again next year. We should work with them to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Right.
Well,
So that's what we should
well,
work
if you,
towards that.
if you, I think maybe what you want, why don't we do this? Why don't we, following up on your suggestion, why don't we meet with their assessment department, well, they don't have assessment department, whoever, with the village manager, and, say, why don't you organize a meeting, just, is a follow-up to the meeting that took place with Orbs.
Right, and
Just
Orbs
make
may
sure
have to be
everything's going-
involved.
and Orbs may have, and we have a lot of time now. Organize a meeting just to make sure everything's flowing
Right.
smoothly. As Deputy Supervisor Villanova, anticipate any, review any issues that have come up, any problems, and then anticipate for next year and make sure they fully understand that it's in their camp and they may have to recalculate again. So the same problem doesn't happen next year.
Right.
Yeah, I was at that meeting that we had with
Yeah,
Orbs.
exactly, yeah.
I was there, so
Yeah.
let's set that meeting up again, reach out to Augie, and
Okay.
let's make this happen.
Absolutely.
Good, thank you. Anything else?
You're welcome. No, that's it for now.
Thanks very much. Okay, finance, Mr. Burns, nothing? We've been through you've done your job. You've given Mr. Noto 27 interim properties to. Exactly, okay. Do we have anything from, on the finances of the town at this point? I know Mr. Trent was going to prepare something. Did he prepare anything for us? Where we
Yes,
are?
we received a financial report somewhere around 4:30 this afternoon. I'm sorry I could not get it copied in time. I'd be glad to email it to the board.
Would you email it to the board so we have, have we received anything this year so far?
This is the first report
All right,
on the town.
So we're in July, we really should have some sense of where the town finances are.
Well, they're as of June 30th.
Right, okay. Thank you. The Honorable Mr. Mecca.
Carvin, members of the Town Council, Nicholas Mecca, receiver of taxes. I just want to mention that this time of year is like housekeeping. So we have sent out over 550 notices for anyone that's delinquent in the village tax, because it's our custom on the 15th to send out a reminder notice. We have done that. We are preparing the list now for Mr. Noda to sign for people that are going to go into liens. We give them one last chance to pay up before their property goes into a lien. We're working on that too. There's quite a few of those. And we've prepared the in rem, so that's ready to go. So basically, that's what we have been working on. It's a very important part of our job to try and clean up these back taxes before we get into the school bills, which will be very, very quickly. So we have collected $160,000 in that delinquent sewer rental for the village of Portchester.
That's right, what happened with that?
Yeah, so we still have 96,000 outstanding, but that will be in those notices.
What do we
that-
finally decide on the threshold? We had a conversation about what threshold we were going to, was it over $100? How do we finally solve that issue?
No, it went right down to the penny.
Jeez.
They were going by
How
a
much additional
resolution
work
that
is-
says that she had authorization to collect X number of dollars. So if there was a penny, I had to put a penny on the bill, which we did. We did what they
And
asked
how's
us
that
to do.
working out? Is it?
Yeah, people are,
Is it a lot of work?
No, not once everything is in place, it just flows with the regular system.
All right. And
But I
what
do
about?
think you wanted to have a meeting, Mr. Supervisor, with
Yeah.
Councilman Nioras and Mr. Mecca
Right.
to make sure that the costs we were assessing
Exactly
reflected
right,
the
yeah.
cost to the town.
And have we?
I don't know if you had that, I assume
No,
you
we
did not.
haven't had that
Okay.
meeting.
No.
on
No,
it.
well,
You need to
I
have that
build
meeting.
I build that once we get down the road a little
Okay.
bit, so we
Can
know
we set
just
that meeting up, though?
how
Let's do
much-
that. Thank you.
I think
Mr.
you want to have that meeting.
Yeah, thanks very
Okay.
much for reminding me. And Mr. Nowotny, Mr. Mecca, let's have a meeting, and Councilman Nioras, if you're available.
Yep.
And let's figure out what's a fair rate to charge the village
Yeah.
for the work we're doing.
Yeah,
So it sounds to me like it's a lot more work than you. You're such a good soldier, a good citizen, but it sounds to me you're doing a whole lot more work than normal.
well, the input work is quite substantial, yes,
Right.
it is. But once it's underway, it's routine.
Okay.
So we are underway, so to speak, so it's routine from this point forward. I will, we'll meet, and I don't build them until later on,
Oh, yeah,
just to
well-
make sure that we hopefully get everybody in and paid before they pay us, so that we can turn around and say, like the sidewalks, there's only one person that's outstanding, but that's on the bill. This year's sidewalks, only out of 26,000, let me see. Out of 26,785, only $805 is not paid yet. But this notice may kick that in so that they will be paid in full. So, okay? And when, give me a couple of weeks and then we'll meet and
Fantastic.
discuss all those things.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Any other
Mecca.
questions? No?
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. Thank you. Town Clerk Vespia.
I submitted my report. I'd just like to mention that June's been a very busy month for people applying for marriage licenses. Very
A lot of
popular one.
marriages. Every time I go over there, there's somebody looking to
happy
get married.
Right, it is a happy month. And Officer Krempa with the Portchester Police Department, he's really doing diligence with getting dogs, people coming to license their dogs. He'll just stop on the street, he sees a dog, does that dog have a license? Get there. So we're
Wow.
getting a tremendous amount of dog
Excellent.
licenses.
So all
So
dogs
happy
need
to
to be
hear that.
licensed. That's
Yes.
wonderful news.
And that's
That's
also
great.
in anticipation to the dog park opening
Great.
in a few months.
Fantastic. Excellent. And where you're handling all that traffic. Beautiful.
Good.
Thank you. Should we charge them for that as well? We should not. Thank you so much, Town Clerk Vespia. Town Attorney Noto?
Nothing new.
Nothing new. I got your in-rems and Superintendent of Highways, he submitted his report. Does anybody have
He did.
anything
Yeah.
they want to
Yes,
remark from
he
the
did.
report, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
You want to say, okay. Are you just going to deliver the report or are you going to?
No.
Make the minutes out.
I assume you guys have it and read it. It's
Well,
pretty
let me
much,
just- before
there
we get to
hasn't been very much progress in terms of the outstanding bridge work there. But I'm sure we're going to start moving on it. I really wanted to raise an issue on
Does anybody have
the,
any questions or comments on the report?
Really, other than this bridge that,
Right.
the board knows, the public knows, I expressed my displeasure a couple months ago, and I still feel the same way. This is, if we need to intercede, is that the right word?
Yep.
With this project, then I'm going to suggest we do that, Bishop.
okay?
Why don't we add,
For whatever reason, this is not moving fast enough. It's not moving fast enough for me. I don't know if it's.
Okay.
I think the board
That's
agrees. If, I guess let everybody know that, the board will ultimately take the project over, if we don't get something. And I really think that we can't wait till the August meeting to get the update. We really need to be updated well before then.
We can reach out to the engineer immediately.
well, that's what I was
and-
going to say, because what do you propose? Is this,
I
because
can
we
get-
had the engineer come and talk to us just 2 months ago, right?
Yeah, and
2 meetings ago.
Yeah, right, and what we need to do is get moving on this, because we were in the same position last
Last year,
year.
yeah.
And I warned the superintendent of highways, I said, we have to get this done, because before you know it, here comes the weather.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened last year. And when we're in the middle of winter, I warned the superintendent of highways, I said, we have to make a decision now so we can hit the ground running. As soon as the weather breaks, let's get this done. And we're in the same position here now. So wherever it's being held up, it's.
Well, do we know where it's being held up?
Yeah, I'll give Vonneman Kirby a call
All right,
tomorrow.
fantastic.
I know he put out bids for the job, and very few people responded back. He's trying to break it down into, I think, 3 or 4 sections.
Right.
Because painting contractors, when they saw the list of what the state wanted for the little bridge, so he cut it down to like 6 pages instead of like a 50 or 100, I forget how many page it was for the safety.
Right.
So he cut that down to make it a little bit more biddable. So according to this report, is that they got the total of 3 individual phases. The project will be approximately $58,000. And the second proposal from One-Time Painting is in the process of being submitted, but it's not complete. I'll call him tomorrow and find out what's going on.
Thanks very much,
Thanks.
Mr. Nardi. Thank you. Mr. Nowotny, did you have, yep.
Yeah, I wanted to just take a moment to update everybody on the RFP for the window and door replacement at Crawford Park. We issued this back in July 1st. We had a site visit scheduled for July 16th. Not a single vendor showed up for the site visit. We had only one vendor actually request a packet. I think that hasn't changed, right?
No, we did get a few more within the last few days.
Oh, okay, so that's
About 4.
new news, but I know that as of a few days ago, only one vendor had picked up a packet, and the due date is August 6th. I'm concerned that, we may be in a situation where we just will not have enough responses. I was going to ask the town council authorize at least 2, 3, perhaps even a 30-day extension on this, so that we can push a few more packets out the door and perhaps get a few more vendors interested.
What's the, any comments from the board, thoughts?
I support that. I think it's a smart decision to
How many
help the project.
packages do we have in now, so?
Well, I had 4
they
requests.
sent-
I sent out the packages, but
Okay,
we
so
really
we
don't
don't know.
know. They haven't showed real, they have to look at them first of
Yeah.
all.
So I would support extending.
Yeah, I mean, it's very important we find the right person for the right organization to partner with for this. It's a big investment, and it's an investment for
Yep.
long-term, so I don't want to cut our nose
Perfect.
to spite our face and
Great.
rush it by a
All
few
right.
weeks.
So, Mr. Nowotny, delay that by, you'll.
Yeah, what
postpone
we'll
by
do
30
is
days?
we'll issue a revised schedule for
Yeah.
the RFP and then, reach out to the existing packet holders as well as more aggressively push to find some
Yeah.
other suppliers.
Well,
Perfect.
On another topic of Crawford Park, we also had a desire to issue a RFP for painting as well. Have we begun preparing that at all?
No, we have not. It's been a little busy with the trees and the.
Well, I want to make sure we have, well, painting season.
Yeah, painting is a relatively easy RFP to put together. The specifications are.
I want to make sure we have enough time to get responses back from vendors before the fall
Yeah,
season when they
absolutely.
typically paint.
Okay.
Terrific. When do you think we might be able to get that out, Mr. Nowotny?
Well, as I said, I'm starting my vacation, so I would say to you that early September, that would be out the door.
All right.
And we could certainly have responses back before the end of the September, I would think.
I think it's pushing it a little bit.
Yeah, is there no way to, how about Mr. Arcaro or somebody else? Can't you give that to somebody while you're on? Mr.
Sure,
Thomas, Mr. Arcaro?
sure, I can easily delegate that. And,
Why don't we do that?
I think
'cause I don't wanna
we
wait till
have
late
an old
September.
RFP,
No,
but
It's
didn't
not late. We can
Then
get- we should
then
better
if
get
you
out
have no
mid-August.
bidders, you have to extend the timeline.
On the RFP, don't you just have to change the dates on it?
No, this is,
Oh,
we're
no.
talking about the
Painting,
painting, the new
painting.
RFP.
Oh, the
Yeah.
new, for the
Yeah.
painting.
Painting, yeah.
Well, you
Painting.
gotta get the
New.
windows and doors done first, though,
Right.
before you do the painting.
I know, but we could put the bid out there.
Right.
Get the bid
So
going.
that it
Yeah.
Oh,
goes
so you-
more
Yeah,
seamless.
You
this
lost
way-
me a minute there, because
Yeah.
you get the.
Oh, right, of course,
Yeah.
okay.
We
just
want to
don't
be
wanna-
evaluating vendors. you know,
Okay.
So they can start sometime in
Exactly, this
September.
way you get the
Yeah.
one done, then you can
Get
jump
it
right on the other.
scheduled in,
Exactly,
yeah.
I understand, yep.
All right. Okay, so we'll try and accelerate that if
Yep.
we can a little bit.
Sure.
All right, talking about timing, August's meeting, is everybody going to be here at the next meeting?
No, I won't be here.
Okay, neither will I.
That's the 18th.
The town goes on without me, and I don't know if the town
Certainly goes on
attorney-
without me, so
Don't know.
I could have Martha here if she's here in town.
That'd be nice if the meeting takes place, it'd be good. We could do it. But I know I won't be here.
I originally said I couldn't be here, but my vacation changed and went a week earlier,
Okay,
so I can be here.
great. All right, so the real question is, we're going to have a quorum for the August meeting, which will be what, the 18th of August?
18th, yeah.
Bob, Council Nioras, Deputy Supervisor Villanova, Councilman, perfect, good, okay.
Town's still on.
Town
Okay.
still, no change in the town meeting.
You know what,
Good.
I'm sorry, I will not be here August 18th.
Do we want to change the August meeting,
Or you just have three.
or you can have three? You can have, you require it, if the three of you are going to be able to make it.
The week of the 10th, I can make the 18th, I can't do the week of the 10th, because I'll be away.
I don't care. I'm not going anywhere.
All right, well, if we require it,
Good.
then you
Get to
guys,
work.
okay.
Good, perfect.
Perfect, okay, so we're good. All right,
So
so
we're
we'll have a
staying.
meeting in
Good.
August, keep it the same.
Keep it the 18th?
Okay.
We'll keep it the
All right.
18th. You guys flip a coin and see who's gonna, I'll leave that to you guys.
We'll play
So-
cards.
gonna
Councilman
play
Nioras
cards,
has
yeah. Read card
seniority.
money.
We'll let him take the
I'm a
lead.
card player, we'll do it by cards.
All right, Councilman Collins, any other comments?
Yes, I have not been able to be here for the last two meetings. And I just want to thank the board for keeping me in the loop with everything. I feel very informed, and I apologize for that. It was unavoidable. Quick update on sustainability. We've had a little bit of a slowdown just with the time of year and some of the things going on, but I do have some quick updates. I'd like to congratulate one of our members of the Sustainability Committee, Ashley Weldy, for enacting and bringing to the Rye Ridge School the We Future Cycle program. I went along with Senator Latimer, who was there, and some other members of some various organizations, and we went and witnessed the program, and it was great to see the kids getting so involved at such a young age and really taking ownership over the recycling program in their own school. And that's great, and it'll be great to see that in a full year program next year. I'd love any of the other schools to go, and I'm sure they'd be welcome to go and witness it as well and support it and try and get into your own school.
In fact, actually, I just want to emphasize this. This is an absolutely fantastic program. It saves the school money and teaches the kids sustainability. So if you have kids in Portchester schools, I would really encourage the Portchester schools to adopt this program. It's absolutely fantastic. It's zero cost, right?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think there's always a startup cost
Right.
associated with things, and it all equates to, but essentially, the concept of the lunchroom and how much trash it generates. And once you break down that trash, everything from dumping liquids into one bucket and then being able to dump that down the drain and then not having to pay for the poundage associated with that trash being hauled away, you're reducing that cost right there. Little Sun Capri packs and other things like that, that packages of chips get wrapped in, those are all being shipped out to a company called TerraCycle that upcycles things and turns them into bracelets and purses and things that people can then purchase. The food gets broken down into compost piles, and they have partnered with an organization that comes and hauls away the food trash, and then you're left with this very small amount of actual trash. Lunch trays in general, if you think about it, they come stacked in nice organized boxes, but when you throw them into the trash bags, they create huge mounds of trash. So they have the kids restacking them to, when they do go to the landfill, we're making less of an impact on the landfill. So when you see it all broken down and it's a system and the little kids are doing it, and signage is really important for them at that age, and they gave a little presentation and they're really excited about it. So that was great. And I'd love to see that take place in some of our other schools, but congratulations to Ashley on having that be the pilot program over there. You know, we're in a fantastic place with Crawford Park and seeing what sort of sustainability initiatives we can bring into the capital improvements as we do them. I think as long as we can make sure that, you know, we're exploring all the options and opportunities there as we move forward with any capital improvements over there, then, you know, we can start to see some real progress. And one of the larger initiatives going on in Westchester County right now is a ban on plastic bags in villages. And it's a much bigger undertaking. Some communities have already adopted it, and, you know, we'll see what happens. It's a big undertaking, but it's one that's unavoidable. It's not going to go away. It's going to come back around. So it'd be great if our communities, our villages, would consider being thought leaders in that and getting involved in that initiative sooner rather than later, rather than coming on late when, you know, everyone else has. But we'll see what happens. And that's it from
Wonderful.
my neck
Well,
of the woods.
Nice to have you back. Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Councilman Nardi?
Yeah, about with the book bindings, I
Oh,
went
yeah.
to Levine Book Bindings in New Rochelle, and they gave me a price of $1,800 to do all 4 books. The man's got a very interesting small place. Everything, all his equipment is back from the 1800s, nothing electric, it's all done by hand. And matter of fact, the books that we have are from the 1800s, so it's being like, they're being remade. I had one other price from the city, and I sent them emails of pictures of the books. They told me it'd be $600 per book, but once he saw the books physically, the price could change to be more. So, I'm leaning towards Mr. Levine. When I was there, he had books from New Haven, old books from there. I do have some pictures. I'm not very computer savvy when it comes to PowerPoint, but for next meeting, I'd like to have a presentation with I took some pictures. It'll be 6 to 8 weeks to have all 4 books done. But everything, like I said, is all done by hand. His sewing machine is a pedal sewing machine. It's not even electric. Nothing in there is electric that he works to refinish these books, and he does an awesome job.
Beautiful. What do you think, Town Clerk Bassett?
I've seen his work. He came 2 years ago to the clerk's office, but at that point, we weren't ready
Yeah.
to do the investment. Now it's necessary.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Any other comments, thoughts from the board?
Still say we should microfiche it and digitize it.
Are we not going to do that as well?
We are doing that
We are
as
doing
well,
it.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really in bad shape, and they really should be restored. And it is a budgeted item. It's not like we're spending, it is budgeted for it. But these books, there's a lot of history in those books, and it's just a shame to see them. The one book that we have is so disheveled that I thought that was going to be like the most expensive book, and it's actually the easiest book for him to repair. So it was really amazing going to
Well, one
his
thing,
place.
if we're going to do this, we really should try and find a place to display these books as well.
I think so.
You know, in one of our offices, we should definitely,
We're getting so many people looking for on genealogy, I guess, with this ancestor.
Ancestry.com,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
you know,
Wow.
Just today.
Well, okay, so I guess you want to formally bring it up next meeting?
Yeah, I'll bring it up next meeting, because he
Discuss it.
won't be able to do anything in August anyway, because he's going away for a few weeks.
Okay.
So he already told me he won't be doing anything till September, because he's finishing up the one project he's got now with New Haven, which he had about 6 books there he was finishing up. So, and he also did work for the city of Rye, and he mentioned a couple other towns, but it's easy enough for me. New Rochelle, yeah. So, there's a couple, I can call, I saw the books, and in the presentation that I have, I took pictures of some of the finished books and how nice they lay flat. It was really, really amazing.
Wonderful.
So-
That's great. Great to know we still have artisans
Yeah.
of that caliber.
The
Thank
handwriting.
you. Anything else, Councilman Nardi?
No, that's all.
Thanks so much, Councilman Nioras.
No comment. My primary mission here was getting the capital plan up and going, and I think we've spoken enough about that today.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Nioras. Deputy Supervisor Villanova?
Nothing.
And that's all for me. So can I get a motion to bring this meeting to an end?
So moved.
So moved.
All right, and I'll see everybody in September. Have a wonderful couple months.
Oh,
Great.
yes, that's right.